Hey, how you doing? This is RJ. Today I'm going to do something a little fun. I originally pulled out a couple of my Captain America because I was going to go over Captain America Annual Number 8, which is a Wolverine and Captain America crossover, which has Mike Zeck as penciler. And the whole run of Mike Zeck is great for Captain America. It's a great run. I'll probably go over that sometime, as well as going over the Annual Number 8. But I pulled out the Annual Number 8. And what I do with my comics is I'm very Scottish. I'm cheap as dirt. So what I do is I bag a comic and then I put an extra comic in the back. One facing frontward, one facing backwards. And it just saves me room. And it also helps even out the box. But anyways, but at the back of my Annual Number 8 was Captain America number 228. I'm going to go over this for fun. Just for kicks, because there's nostalgia and kicks. It's fun. It's funny to read this thing. I pulled it out and read it because it just has a great cover. It's got Mike Zeck doing the pencils, and it's just great art. And I know it was great art, but you look at the cover and you just want to read it. And here's what the story is about. If you don't know what number 228 of Captain America is, it is a storyline where Captain America, because this book is written in 1983, so Captain America goes into the far-flung apocalyptic future of 1993. Yes, that's the storyline. He is in the far-flung apocalyptic future of 1993. And of course, I open up the first page and I don't even get to the comic book before I start laughing again, because people, especially people who haven't lived through the 80s or remember the 80s, I'm sure a bunch of you probably were born in the 80s but might not remember the 80s. But when you look at things like Wreck-It Ralph and you see the cheesy kind of video games, you think they're making fun of video games, and these things didn't actually exist. Oh, they existed. Oh, did they ever exist? I'm going to put a couple of these pictures up just from the back of the front cover and from the front and back of the back cover. We have video game advertisements, and it's just, oh my, it's so silly. The first one is Burger Time, where literally you're a chef and you run up and down ladders and across these burger patties and burger buns, and you're dropping things into burgers. You're getting chased by pickles and sausages and eggs. Oh, it's hilarious. It was hilarious when you think about it. These are the kinds of video games we used to play back in the 80s. And your weapon is the pepper shaker. This is the video game. No word of lie. This is the 1983 video game. And this advertisement was on so many books. Oh, I remember it. And the back one is the Kool-Aid Man video game. I'm losing it here. So it's the Kool-Aid Man video game, where literally you are Mr. Kool-Aid breaking through walls, and when you're attacking the thirsties. I'm just remembering these games. These were literally the video games that we were playing. Of course, on the very back page, you got Q-bert. Everybody remembers Q-bert. You've seen Q-bert in Wreck-It Ralph, and I played Q-bert so much on what was it, my ColecoVision. Yeah, I remember Q-bert. Q-bert, at the very least, was some sort of normal game as compared to Burger Time and the Kool-Aid Man. Heaven help me. Anyways, so to get into the book itself, it doesn't get a whole lot better. Because here we have Captain America. I gotta say, it's beautiful art. Okay, it's got Captain America and it's got Deathlock in it. And it's a fairly good story, but there's just so many plot holes and so many things. There's a couple of things that don't fit up, but the plot holes, the whole story has a narration by Captain America himself, and he's wandering through this wasteland of 1993. Just to give you a little bit of the story of why it's a wasteland in 1993. We're talking about back in 1983 that this was written. And of course, the biggest villains back in 1983, if you remember living through 1983, were big business and lawyers. Everybody hated lawyers, like hated them with a passion, but big business. So the Roxanne Company created this worldwide apocalypse because the Roxanne Company wanted to basically take over the United States. And what they did was they put all of their money into developing these interdimensional portals is basically what they did. And so when they actually got them working, it took a lot of energy to get them working, so they could only use them once. And they used them to transport all of the Avengers, all of the Fantastic Four, all of the Defenders, and all of the X-Men into dimensions where they would be automatically killed. And since all of these people, all of these heroes were gone, they just picked off the rest of the heroes quickly and tried to take over the United States. And of course, the FBI and the Army dug themselves in, and they started this protracted long war with the Roxanne Company, and it spread and spread all over the world until most of humanity was dead. So the story is that in this far-flung future of 1993, in comes Captain America from the past with Deathlock, and they are fighting basically a warlord who is set up in the ruins of New York, and he has cybernetic implants and has made himself a cybernetic army that was going to set off destructive bombs all over the globe to destroy all the rest of humanity that is left there. So that's the basic story. So it would be a good story. It's a good futuristic story. It has some elements to it that would make it good, but the way they execute it is oh so poor. Oh, it's so bad. I'm sure I never realized this as a kid, but as a writer now, to look at all this exposition, it's the writer's rule is show don't tell, and this is comics, a visual medium where you get to put pictures in there, and you have one of the best Captain America artists there are out there. People still take Mike Zeck's art and try to imitate it for Captain America, but here they have so much exposition and so much talking. You got them wandering through the ruins, just him explaining, the fellow that's their guide, basically explaining to Captain America and Deathlock what happened and why all of the world is basically destroyed and humanity is almost all dead. But the funny thing, it's got so many funny things in it. Okay, so we're in 1993, and you have these guys, and they're basically working out of ruins, and they've scraped together a whole bunch of computer equipment in order to track down these cybernetic overlord and try to keep tabs on him. But you take a look at these core guys from this group, which are resistance fighters. You got 6 of them. Now, again, it's just I don't know what would possess you to. I'll give you a couple of pictures here up on the screen. What would possess you to dress these guys in the way that they are? Because I mean, you got the woman, now she's dressed in fairly nice clothes. You got the swashbuckler guy, he's dressed in fairly nice clothes. You got 2 other guys, both of them look like wrestlers. One of them looks like Mr. T, with no shirts or wrestling type clothes. And then you have the leader, who basically looks like Conan the Barbarian, because all he has on is a loincloth. He's got no shoes, no nothing, just a loincloth. I mean, they're in the ruins of New York City, where the city tried to evacuate before a bomb went off and destroyed most of the city. I'm sure you can find clothes somewhere. You don't need to run around in a loincloth. It was just an artistic mistake, if you ask me. But that's not the only thing that happens in here, because, again, you have this guy in a loincloth, and most of his other companions have only small bits of clothes on, and they're trying to fight this giant overlord, and they can't scrape together enough resources to get themselves clothes, but when they come to the time where they have to attack the overlord, they all have miniature flying cars. Now, they were supposed to have scraped together as much technology as they could. So it's 1993, and the world ended in 1983, and they managed to scrape together miniature flying cars for everybody. I don't know why in the world someone... I know that. I'm sure Roxanne Corporation probably used them to take over the world, but seriously, everybody in the apocalypse of 1993 has a flying car. That just makes no sense. It makes no sense. But anyways, this is the basic storyline of this book, and it's a fun book to read. It's got so many holes in it, but again, like I said, the art is so great, and the second half of the story... Oh, before I even get to the second half of the story, let's go to the middle. We got the splash page where your staples are in the middle. I'll put this up on the screen too. Okay, here you got your NBC Saturday morning cartoon ad, which is the biggest ad in the entire book. And what are they advertising? Because this is Saturday morning cartoons here. We got the Flintstones, we got the Shirt Tails, the Smurfs, Alvin and the Chipmunks, Mr. T, the Amazing Spider-Man, and the Incredible Hulk, and Thundar the Barbarian. I remember Thundar the Barbarian, but I also remember Mr. T. If you're looking at this picture, this is the funny thing. Okay, nobody... Again, if you haven't lived through the 80s, you don't remember how big Mr. T was. I mean, not only at this time was he one of the main characters on the A-Team, but here, this is Saturday morning cartoons, and he has his own cartoon. Mr. T has his own cartoon. And on this splash page, the biggest person on this splash page, the biggest image on this double splash page for NBC Saturday morning cartoons is Mr. T. He's bigger than the Smurfs. He's bigger than the Hulk. He's bigger than Spider-Man, certainly. And not only that, but one of the guys here in this book itself, in this Captain America book, he looks exactly like Mr. T. You got characters based off Mr. T was everywhere. Take it for somebody who didn't really like Mr. T that much. I like B.A. Baracus a little bit, but the A-Team was not my cup of tea. I was a Magnum PI guy, Simon and Simon, those kind of shows. A-Team wasn't the thing that I liked the most. But Mr. T was everywhere. It's just cringeworthy. Yeah, that was the 1980s. Oh, that was the 1980s. It's cringeworthy. But to move on back to the story. And what happens in the second half of the story is, so Captain America and Deathlock and this band of, what are they? Resistance fighters. They break into the tower, basically, of this giant cyborg who is trying to destroy the rest of the world. And what does he do when they break in? Because he knows that they broke in. Well, he puts them in a giant maze. Like literally drops the floor out from underneath them, and they have to fall like 100 feet to a maze below them. And they get pushed up by these fans that are blowing air so that they don't get crushed before they get into the maze. Yeah, that's great storytelling there. Oh, that's great storytelling. I can't, my side hurts. Anyway, and when they're in this maze, okay, they get dropped 100 feet into the maze. And everything is black except for the maze. And again, the funny thing is that the maze is just a little higher than head height for Captain America. We'll say it's probably like 7 feet high, the maze walls are. But no one even tries to climb over to the top of the walls of the maze and just look around, or to walk over the top, because that would be the sane thing to do, right? But no, this maze walls, they're about 7 feet high, but nobody thinks to climb up to the top of the maze walls. And after having dropped down into the maze from 100 feet above and being cushioned by this air that's blowing up, two of them are automatically, of the resistance fighters, two of them are automatically sucked back up. I don't understand why. I'm sure no one else understands why either. So those are the two first to go. Then we have some sliding walls that shoot out some kind of knockout gas to take out two others. Then you have two more that are they're grabbed by tentacles out of the blackness of another wall, and all you have left is Captain America and Deathlock. And then they have this giant battle with the cyborg who is trying to destroy the world. He's basically on the countdown to set off all the bombs when Captain America and Deathlock come into the room to finally destroy him. Of course, it's like that Tim Allen movie where he's in the mock Star Trek ship, where the bomb won't stop until it reaches zero. It's that kind of storytelling. It's not supposed to be funny either, but it is so funny because literally as they walk in, he's going to set off the bombs because that's when the countdown is about to go to zero, and they just have moments in order to stop him. But of course, why the maze even leads directly into this guy's, basically control room so that they can destroy him, I have no idea. I really don't. It's storytelling is so cringy. Anyways, that was Captain America number 288. And since Captain America is still alive, I take it you can probably figure out, what happens at the end and whether or not Captain America and Deathlock actually are successful. And like I said, the Mike Zeck run of Captain America is revered by Captain America fans because of the beautiful art of Captain America. But this storytelling is so cringeworthy. I'm hoping that in the future, people look back at some of the stuff that's coming out of Marvel today and just cringe as much as we cringe at some of the stuff that came out in the early 80s. Because, at the very least, though, the difference is that we're cringing at this stuff because it's kind of, I wouldn't say meant to be silly, but it wasn't to be you weren't supposed to take it so seriously as what's going on today. They expect you to take it ultra seriously, and that's what makes it so cringeworthy. It's cringeworthy in the opposite direction back in 1983, because you're coming off of a lot of books where, they were for kids, and they're just trying to explain this to kids. And it wasn't exactly an adult audience for full adult audience for comics at the time. But anyways, yeah, I just had to go over this. It is so fun. This is why I like pulling out old comics. I'll give you as much art as I can when I post it and put some art up along with what I'm talking about so you can see this. But oh my God, it was funny reading this book. And I don't know. Is there anybody out there? I'll have to see if I can. I'll see if I can find some audio. I'm sure I can find some audio to go to Q-bert, but I would like to find some audio to go with Burger Time, and see if I can put it at the end of this video. If I do, I'll put some Q-bert at the end probably. But I'll see if I can find some Burger Time. Again, Burger Time. I wonder if someone on the internet has actually put this game up there so you can play it. It's kind of like Jumpman. Jumpman and Jumpman Jr. They were pretty sophisticated compared to Burger Time, where you're running over top of sandwich fixings in order to crush your opponents into sandwiches, because your opponents are pickles and sausages and eggs. Beats Kool-Aid Man and trying to kill the thirsties. Anyways, I've laughed at this for too long. Hopefully I'll have a great run soon. I'm probably going to go back to doing some Indiegogo crowdfunded comics next, but I'm hoping to get some more good runs out there. All right, thanks for listening to me. I'll see you later. Bye.